This one, I saved the best for last. What's up, besties? A few weeks ago, I put up a post on my community tab as well as on my Instagram stories asking you guys if you had any questions you wanted us to address with regards to our Namibia road trip, all the fun stuff. There were a few questions that were coming in dribs and drabs on my Instagram DMs. People wanted to know more about how we budget for the trip, how long it took us to save the money, all that fun stuff. And I figured let's just do a sit down Q&A and answer all the questions. And of course, I put the question on my community tab, as I mentioned, so that I don't leave you guys behind, because I do know and I completely understand that there are besties who would rather consume content on YouTube and not so much on Instagram. So being the organized girly that I am, I have tallied them up and basically just organized them in this little notebook of mine so that I don't have to go through one question over and over and over again, but at the same time making sure that I'm not leaving anything behind. So with all of that said, let's talk about money. Okay, maybe it is a bit dramatic, but let's talk about road trip planning and all that fun stuff. Before we carry on with this video, full disclaimer, I am not wearing my glasses, so I cannot see if this camera is focused or not, even though it's literally like right here. Oh, no. I can't see if it's focused or not, so I do apologize in advance if it goes in and out of focus. Your girl can't see that far, okay? Anyway, let's get started. So question number one, how long did we spend at the border? Just a little background for somebody who might be stumbling upon this video and has never watched our channel before. About 6, maybe 7 weeks ago, we took a road trip to Namibia. It wasn't our first time crossing the border. We have been to Namibia a few times in many different countries, driving and not flying, which is always exciting. How long we spent at the border? Honestly, we barely spent 30 minutes. The border we used is not necessarily busy. From what we understood when being told by the border officials, so there's not a lot of people going through there anyway. So it was only us at the time when we were crossing, and we barely spent 20 minutes on the South African side. So how borders work is when you leave the country, you will leave first the portion of that country, drive a little bit in no man's land, and then get to the other country's border patrol. The one thing that took forever is that we had to fill in the forms individually, and because there's 5 of us, that already on its own would take some time. If it was just me and Daisy, we probably would have been out of there in 10 minutes, but it took us probably like 20 minutes, no more than 30 minutes. And then we crossed. When we got to the Namibia side, again, it was just us. And again, no more than 30 minutes and we were into Namibia, basically. To be honest, we've always felt like Namibia border is the most efficient out of all the countries we've been into. Everybody knows exactly what they want from you. And so you're not being bounced from pillar to post trying to figure out what is required from me. Can I go? Can I not? Are we good? Are we not? They're very, very efficient. So it doesn't take that long. Question number 2, are the campsite family friendly and safe, and where did we book the accommodation? Majority of the trip, what we did was camping, which was so much fun. It's way better than hotel stays, I'll tell you that. Safety wise, yes, they are safe, at least the ones we went to. The one thing you need to always be cognizant of, regardless of whether you're going into a hotel, a campsite, an Airbnb, you need to always be aware or do some sort of research around the surroundings, even if it's just reading Google reviews or, you know, doing a little bit of a, what's that, on Google Maps when you do a satellite view, just so you can get a glimpse of what it looks like around where you are going without just going there blindly. You do need to take care of your things. You can't leave your car unlocked, regardless of whether you're camping or not. You know, you need to still take the normal safety precautionary measures. Family friendly, yes. I honestly think that camping is more family friendly than hotels, especially if you have more than 2.5 children. That's how they call it, you know, when you have 3 kids and more. You know, in hotels, there's so many requirements. You can't be in a hotel room. If it's more than 4 people, you know, you have to get 2 different rooms. It's just a whole lot of admin that's really unnecessary. Whereas with camping, you get a campsite and, you know, you can either set up 2 tents for your family, you can have one big one, you can do whatever you want with that campsite because it's essentially yours for that little bit of time that you booked it for. So yeah, definitely family friendly. And if you can't tell already, I'm pro camping. Where did we book accommodation? This time around, we used booking.com to just search around. I was in charge of the accommodation. Disney Basil was purely in charge of driving. What I did is every every time we got a little bit of Wi-Fi here and there, even before we left, like while we're still here at home, I would go on Google and I would search for the cities or the towns that I knew we would visit. I would put that on bookings.com, date as estimate, and pretty much just search around there and just get a glimpse of what it is that we can expect. We didn't necessarily pre-book anything. We would book accommodation the night before or the day before, but again, just getting an idea of what it is we're getting ourselves into. While back in 2016, 2017, not only did we not pre-book the accommodation, we also really had no idea what we were walking into or what we were driving into. We just drove, and when we see a sign that says, you know, camping or accommodation, we'd be like, okay, we've been driving forever, let's go there, let's camp there, it's gonna be fun. And it was fun. This time around with 3 kids, we, at least for me, Daisy was just like, it's fine, we'll be fine, everything's fine. And I was just like, okay, we have 3 kids, let's not skate on super thin ice, let's layer it up a little bit. So I did do a little bit of research around the accommodation, like I said, you know, check on bookings.com, so that also we can pretty much anticipate the drive. Like, do we have to drive for 4 hours today or like 8 hours kind of thing? And if that's the case, do we wake up earlier or later? Stuff like that. Question number 3, what did we not like about Namibia and what did we like? I thought this was a funny one. What did we not like? First of all, the water. Oh my days. Even if you bought store water, like the bottled water, it was super salty, packed with minerals. I kid you not, I cooked rice with the water and the rice turned yellow. Oh no! Gum was convinced I added like spice for rice and it turned it yellow, and I'm like, I didn't. Thankfully, I didn't say it before they ate. I only started complaining about the water after they ate, because I know my kids are choosy bangers and they wouldn't eat the food if they knew that it's something I didn't do, like it just happened in the process of cooking. So I didn't really say anything until they were done eating, and I was like, oh my god, the water literally turned the rice yellow. Yeah, I did not enjoy the water at all. I was actually very miserable the whole time once we ran out of our Aquel, which we brought from home. But thankfully, when we got to Windhoek, we were able to top up on our Aquel, which was so nice. And the food, oh my god. There's just something about the way Namibians cook their food that's not the same as how we cook our food, which is completely expected and normal in a way. Like, you can't go into a different country and expect everything to be exactly the same as it is in your own country. It just doesn't make sense. And if you think my kids are picky eaters, I am very particular with how my food should taste. You probably get that from me, but you did not hear that from me. I did not enjoy the food at all. In fact, more than half the time I was like, we'll cook, even if it means we eating noodles and whatever, we'll do that instead of, like, you know, buying food from a restaurant. And we did. We tried so hard. We spent so much money on food we didn't eat in restaurants because we just didn't enjoy the food. And eventually we're like, okay, let's go to Checkers, let's buy some meat, let's do some braai. I mean, braai is braai. We're gonna braai the way we do it when we're at home. And let me tell you, that meat still didn't something was a mixture. Okay, so I did not enjoy that part. And what we liked, oh my god, everything. The people are super nice, everybody's so understanding, they're very accommodating. At least the ones we're interacting with, they're very, very nice. Nobody was trying to be superior. It was just like, we're humans, we're having a chat, it doesn't really matter where you're from. You know, it was just so nice. The vibes were good, the views were amazing, the country is fabulous. It's just, in case you can't tell, I love Namibia. We're about to get to question 4 and my battery is flashing. Hold on. Alright, so question number 4. Do we get nervous road tripping in our crime-ridden country? The thing I couldn't quite understand with this question is the country referring to Namibia or South Africa? The bestie that sent this question, I couldn't tell where they're from. But regardless, do we get nervous road tripping in our country? In this case, I would talk about South Africa because crime is a bit intense here. The answer is no. Purely because, you know, we do take the safety precautionary measures, like I already said. You know, we don't just move from one place to another oblivious to everything else that's happening around us. We still check our surroundings. We're still aware of where we are. We still, you know, sort of like look out for things that would be unusual, things that would be considered dangerous, that we ourselves would consider dangerous. We still look out for those things. And so nervousness, no. But cautious, yes, we are cautious all the time. Because the truth is, if you were to be nervous about something all the time, you would never get to experience a lot of things, because you would be, you know, from being being nervous, you'd then be scared, and then you're paralyzed, and then you just never get to do anything. You never get to experience anything. You never get to travel anywhere. The reality of the matter is crime is everywhere. Yes, it's more in some countries than it is in others, but at the same time, crime is crime, you know? So no, we don't really get nervous, but we are cautious. Question number 5, how do we get around the kids' school calendar? Do they skip classes? This was a very important question, especially if you're watching this and you have kids that are in school and you're considering going on a road trip, all that fun stuff. The simple answer to that is no, we don't. The kids don't skip school. They still stay in school. We normally travel in between school holidays. The same as my leave days. I budget my leave days according to the travels that we have scheduled. And that's why you guys are always like, are you on leave again? Recently, a recent travel, I think we went to Durban, and from Durban we went to Durban. From Durban we went to Bernardo's birthday trip. I did take them out of school for 2 weeks purely because they were done with the term curriculum and it was just before school holidays, so they were basically going to school as a play thing, like adventure zone. And I figured, you know what, instead of like taking the kids to school to do absolutely nothing, let's rather go on this fabulous travel. And that's what we did. So we sort of like work around the school calendar and look at, you know, what they have to do. Like right now, Gami's in the middle of assessments and then exams. She obviously cannot travel anywhere. We can't travel anywhere with her, or both of us, like myself and Dizzy Basil. One of us has to be home with the kids and helping her with her studying, all the fun stuff. And then she will have a week after her exams, but still during the school term. Typically, those are the weeks we take advantage of. Like if we want to travel, we will start the travel earlier instead of waiting for school holidays. Because the truth is, when you travel during school holidays, it's a bit more expensive than when you do during school time. I don't know if that makes sense. Everybody wants to travel during school holidays, so everything tends to be a bit more expensive. So we try and get that week ahead before the school holidays. We sort of leverage and save a little bit of money. And yes, that's a tip for saving costs while you're traveling. So work around the school calendar and see where you can leverage all those days and pretty much just run with them. Question number 6, how do we get to enjoy the holidays with the kids? You know how they say being on holiday with the kids is basically parenting in a different place? That is true. 110% correct. But the thing is, if you always gonna look at it from that point of view, you're never going to go anywhere with your children. And the sad reality is that you're robbing them of all these amazing experiences that they could experience just because you don't want to be inconvenienced while you're on holiday. I don't know how to explain. You almost have to feel it and experience it for yourself to get it. But don't look at it as it's going to be exhausting. The kids will never listen. Yes, they won't listen to you, but like if you talk to them prior, ahead of time, and they sort of know what to expect, it makes it 10 times easier. So do we get to enjoy the holidays? Yes, 110%. We enjoy the holidays, absolutely. Exhausted, tired, needing a break, all that not so fun stuff, but still enjoying it. Question number 7, the ZA sticker. People wanted to know what's with the ZA sticker. There's an Instagram reel. In fact, I did that for TikTok, and then did I put it on Instagram? I don't remember. Anyway, people wanted to know what's with the ZA sticker. I was doing it to put a Namibian flag every time we travel outside the country. When we road trip and we get a flag and we stick it on the car, you know, it's like a souvenir thing. It's very nice. Of course, I was super excited to put one on Sylvia, her very first one, but I started with the ZA sticker. The confusing part was I was speaking about the Namibia flag, but then I started with the ZA sticker. So the ZA sticker essentially just says that we're from South Africa. You're actually supposed to have that on your car before you cross the border into a different country. I do believe it's a requirement from your primary country when you do go into a different country to have a sticker of your country. It's just a requirement when you travel into Botswana. You must have a ZA sticker. It just says you're from South Africa. Unfortunately for us, we had forgotten to stick it on the car before we crossed the border, and thankfully nobody asked. Like the officials didn't ask when we crossed into Namibia, thank the Lord. So I ended up sticking it when I was sticking my Namibia flag, and sure enough, on the next roadblock we got stopped and they checked for it. So I was just like, phew, I'm glad we stuck it when we did. Question number 8, the cost of things in Namibia. So a lot of the besties were interested in knowing, you know, price difference. Fair enough. To be honest, it's similar. The diesel was about 1 or 2 rands cheaper than South African one, but when you go into the shops, you find something else is 1 or 2 rands more expensive than it is in SA. So essentially, it's very, very similar. Like a 2,000 rand budget won't get you more in Namibia than it does here in SA, in my experience anyway. Question number 9, how long does it it take to plan the family trip and which route to take? Planning a road trip doesn't take time. Planning a cross-border road trip takes time. There are some countries that have got like requirements that need a little bit of time before you can actually cross the border into their country. For example, if you need to get malaria tablet, you have to start taking the tablet 2 weeks before you start traveling. So you kind of have to plan before then, if that makes sense. While in other countries, you need a visa and all those not so fun things that has got a lot of admin attached to them. So planning a cross-border road trip does take a lot of time. You do need to do some research and find out what is required from that country you specifically wanting to go to. With us specifically, the Namibia road trip, it didn't really take that long. Namibia doesn't want, you know, blood samples from you to cross into Namibia. You just basically need to have your car papers, insurance, a sticker, passport obviously, and if you're coming with the kids, they're unabridged certificates that shows mom and dad, all that fun stuff. So you honestly could decide to go to Namibia in 2 days and actually make it. With regards to the route, I always say, if you have your destination, say I'm going to Namibia, I'm going to Windhoek. If you have Windhoek, great. Now what you do is you go on Google Maps, go on Google and you do some research, like, you know, what to see on the way to Windhoek, some tourist attractions if you are into touristy stuff, and you basically just pin that on your Google Maps. So you can basically do that. It'll give you sort of like an idea of how long it's going to take you. Maybe from, you know, where you are to Windhoek might be 12 hours, but then once you start adding River Canyon and this and the other thing, then all of a sudden you move from 12 hours to like 24 hours of travel time. So yeah, you do need to have a destination in mind and basically just research the rest of, like I said, tourist attractions and all the fun things that you could see on the way there, and pretty much just take it from there. Another thing you want to be like cautious of, and I always say go again on Google, that little person, if you can grab that person and just drop them on the road so you can see if it's a gravel road or a tarred road, because you're not going to be able to have visibility of that until you're in that country, or unless you know somebody who's there. So you want to sort of anticipate it and know that, am I going to be driving on gravel road? Am I going to be driving on tarred road? How's the situation like? All that fun stuff. One thing I noticed, especially with me, sometimes I forget that I'm not in Pretoria, Joburg. I don't even want to say South Africa, because when I go to my parents in Northwest, it's not the same. And I struggle to switch that mentality of there's going to be another shopping center in about 10 kilometers. It's fine. We don't have to buy stuff now. So this is always the one who's reminding me like, no, we got to get stuff now while we see it, because we don't know what's ahead of us kind of thing. So yeah, just research. Honestly, research. And very important, make sure you download your Google Maps before you leave the country, because once you cross into Namibia, you're going to lose signal, at least before you get the SIM card, if you're planning to get a SIM card. We didn't get a SIM card, so we basically relied on Wi-Fi, which we got in some garages, which is incredibly convenient. When we went back in 2017, 2018, they didn't have that in a garage, so you'd be without signal forever, basically. But one thing that really helps with Google Maps is you're able to download. So we basically downloaded portions of Google Maps. It doesn't let you download the whole country map, so you kind of have to, you said Windhoek, it'll show you where like the area is going to cover, and then you download that map, and then you go to the next spot, download that, all that fun stuff. It'll help you be able to use Google Maps to navigate even though you don't have signal. If there's anything I need you to take out of this video, it's that. Download your maps, please, because signage is not as fabulously everywhere as it is here in SA. You kind of have to know where you're going. Question number 10, this one is a very important one if you're traveling with kids. It says, how do we handle kids' tantrums and how do we keep them entertained while on the road? I'll start off by saying this, and I feel kind of bad saying this, but I have to say it. We are super blessed that we have kids that are pro road tripping, and when you say let's drive there, they're just like, let's go, no questions asked. And from that sense, it makes it so much easier to have them in the car. It does not necessarily mean that there are no tantrums or fighting or like tears and crying and screaming. All of those things are still there, but I do feel like they're at a minimum, unless if my threshold is like all the way up the roof. So we're very blessed in that way. How do we handle tantrums? Truthfully, we start the conversation about traveling before the traveling. So before we even hit the road, we sort of like like, my mom likes to say, we prep the kids. We tell them we're going to be driving into Namibia. It's going to be like 10 hours of driving, and we show them how long 10 hours actually is. And we're going to do stops along the way. Sometimes when we know where we're going, we will even draw like little cards, you know, toll gates, a garage, and a this and a that, and they hold those cards, and we're like, are we past the toll gate? Yes we are, yay, 3 more stops and then we arrive, kind of thing, just to keep them engaged and to keep them, you know, not focused on I'm bored or like my back hurts or like I want to get out of the car and all that stressful bits. Prepping them ahead of time, talk to the kids. There's nothing more frustrating than not knowing what's going on. It goes with adults, not just for kids, you know. Can you imagine if somebody just put you in the car and said, let's go? You don't know where you're going, you don't know how long it's going to take, all you know is your feet are getting swollen, you're tired, you're hot and sweaty, and you just want out. So we prep them ahead of time. We tell them about the trip, we hype them up, what it's going to be like, where we're going to stop, how long it's going to take. And so by the time we get in the car, everybody already knows, like, okay, we're going to be in here for a while. And so it sort of reduces the tantrum. So instead of having a kid screaming and crying, they rather ask, when are we going to make our next stop? Not even are we there yet. I kid you not. The whole time we're driving, I haven't heard a single are we there yet? Unless it was a joke from the movie Shrek. It helps plenty. And how do we keep them entertained? They're in charge of the playlist. They get to pick songs on Spotify. When they're tired, we get snacks. We do leg stretches. We play card game, like spot different cars in different colors, and we'll say like white doesn't count or black doesn't count, and we keep scores. It's just all those little things in the car that makes the travel time, even though it's very long, it makes it short. Also, very, very important here, make sure you squeeze in as much travel as you possibly can while the kids are napping. When we start the road trip, we normally start in the night. We either start before midnight or after midnight, and we know that they're gonna get in the car, nobody's really excited to see anything, it's dark outside, so they just go right back to sleep, and we just cover as much distance as we can. So that by the time they wake up and the sun is bright and shining and everybody wants breakfast, all that fun stuff, we are pretty much almost there. I hope this helps, and I hope it makes sense, because in my head it makes sense because I've done it so many times. I just don't know if I'm articulating it properly and clearly. But if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section down below and I'll try and explain it further. I don't know, just let me know. Question number 11, which accommodation option is cheaper, camping, self-catering, or a hotel? This one goes without saying. Camping will always be cheaper than self-catering or a hotel. Hotels will always come out as being, you know, the most expensive because it's a hotel. So camping for sure, it's always cheaper because the only thing you pay for literally is your campsite. I do want to say though that if you're a first-time camper and you have to buy everything from scratch, everything being your tent, your camp chairs, your mat, you know, your gas cylinders, pots, all that fun stuff that you need while you're camping, that will be expensive, the initial cost. But then going forward, it's cheap. Most campsites will charge per campsite and not so much per person. So they will say it's 500 per campsite per night. So instead of saying 500 per person, they will say 500 per night, which makes it like way cheaper than a hotel that will tell you it's 1.6 per night, excluding breakfast or whatever, you know. And then self-catering, again, you have to pay say 1,000 a night, plus you still gotta bring your own food. Camping works out to be cheaper without a doubt. Question number 12, I think I'm on question number 12. I lost count. What was the hardest part of the trip? Ooh, the hardest part of the trip, honestly, was having to come back home. Actually realizing that we have to come back home was the hardest part. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes like, did you plan to be there forever? No, the answer is no, we didn't. But I had miscalculated when the second term is starting. I thought we had another week before we had to come back home, and so we were gonna go to Dead Flay and, you know, all that fun stuff. But then as soon as we realized, yikes, school starts earlier than we thought, we had to quickly make our way back home. Also because Gum had asked us to give her a few days before going back to school after the trip so that she can just wind down and get herself ready for school again, which I completely respect that. I was like, good for you, girlfriend, we can do that for you. So we had to quickly come back home. That was the hardest part. We basically had to abandon some of the plans that I had made. So but I'm not complaining, gives us another reason to go back to Namibia, so yay for us. In one sentence, how did we do, especially with the kids? I think we did phenomenal. I think we did fantastic. fantastic. Nobody got hurt. We all came back alive, sunburnt but alive. Everybody had fun. The memories were insane. To this day, they still talk about it. Bernardo was talking about Dune 7 just yesterday. So I think we did phenomenal, honestly. Question number 13, I think. Trip itinerary and suggested places to stay with kids. Ooh, this one is a bit hard, you know. Trip itinerary, honestly, again, like I say, this one goes back, for me anyway, ties back with how do you decide the route when you go road tripping. Just think about your destination and then go on Google and search, you know, tourist attractions to where you're going on the way to Windhoek, for example, and pretty much just plan it like that. It gives you an itinerary. Like for us, we knew we're not going to be able to make the drive from Pretoria all the way into Namibia. It's too far and the kids would not stand for that. So we knew we had to sort of like get a small bite day one and then into Namibia the next day. And the small bite for us was from Pretoria into Upington. It took almost 11 hours, but it wasn't because it was that far. It was purely because there was road works. The road wasn't so even. We had to drive a little bit slower than anticipated. But again, it was all good because we were able to check in before sunset. So everything worked out. Suggested places to stay with kids. Right at the top of my head, that hotel in Upington I spoke about, the Oasis Hotel, it was great. It has got this fabulous suite. Once you're into Namibia, I definitely recommend Kalahari Farmhouse. It was very nice. It has got chalets as well as campsites. It was really nice. It's just after you go past Marienthal, so it's like in the middle. If you want to go to Windhoek but you don't want to make the drive all the way, I'd say make a pit stop there. And then of course, once you're in Windhoek, there's a lot of options. Honestly, just pick from there. I didn't particularly enjoy Hilton Hotel. The views were not great. The service wasn't, so you kind of have to research. And once you're in Swakopmund, I would recommend Desert Breeze. It's low-key expensive because it's just, especially because it's just an Airbnb, you still got to bring your own food, but the views are amazing. And then what else? I'm gonna try and leave as many in the description box down below. If I forget, which I tend to do most times, please just ping me, let me know, leave a comment and I'll respond and put it in the description box. Question number 14, I think. How do we plan the stops, the route, and how far apart? Which again, I feel like it sort of like ties back to itinerary. How do we plan the road trip route, all the fun stuff. How do we plan the stops? It depends on if the kids are alert and they're willing to keep going, we keep going. And the driver is good to keep going, we keep going. You have to know your family and your kids and know when they start to get irritated and annoyed and they start picking on each other and they start making, you know, being very short and snappy with each other. You know, you need a break, you need some fresh air, you need to stretch your legs, just get out and do it. You don't even have to stop at a super fancy place. Just get a safe spot to stop and stretch your legs there. You can even play, I don't know, something I spy with my little eyes while you're there, 30 minutes, and then get back in the car and start driving. But how far apart, like I said, there's really no specific time to say every 2 hours we stop, because what happens after an hour if one of us needs to pee? There's no time. We just go with the flow. I feel like the more you plan and you want to stick to your plan, the more stressful it becomes for everybody. So truly just go with the flow. Question number 15. I don't know. What did we forget and realized while on the trip? This one literally knocked me on my feet. Of all the things I could have forgotten, I can't believe I forgot that. The whole time we were packing here, things were looking up, things were great. I had a list to make sure we didn't forget anything. But then while we're driving, I think we're just about to get into Upington, I realized we forgot pillows. Oh no! Which was extremely annoying because we're camping. So the whole time we're camping, we didn't have pillows, but we survived. We turned out fine. And I was not about to buy pillows. I said to Dizzy, we can't buy pillows because then we get home, we have all these pillows here at home. What are we gonna do with the new pillows? No, hell no, we'll live. And we did. Another thing we forgot is the vacuum. I wanted to take a little small portion of a cordless vacuum cleaner because unfortunately for me, as much as I hate being in a messy car, when you're road tripping with kids or just road tripping in general, with or without kids, it gets messy. One minute you're out at the beach, you bring sand in the car. The next minute you stop by the roadside, you bring grass in the car. The next, it's all dusty, all of a sudden it gets in the car. It's just really messy. And I forgot the vacuum cleaner. So I was really bothered by that and I was actually very bummed. But Dizzy Basil, being as awesome as he is, he was able to, when we got to Kalahari Farmyard, which was probably like 4 or 5 days into our road trip, he cleaned out the car and it was just like brand new again, which was so refreshing and so incredibly amazing. So yeah, I forgot pillows and a vacuum cleaner. Can you ever? The second last question, would we do it again? Yes, yes, yes. I actually am trying to convince Dizzy to agree for us to drive to Paris. Wow! Because you can drive to Paris, guys. You actually can drive to Paris. It only takes 7 days. 7 days, but I'm willing to do it in 2 weeks. He's already buying into the idea, but we don't know how we're gonna finance that, to be honest. And also, we would have to do it without the kids, unfortunately, because there are way too many countries to cross on the way there. And with kids, it gets complicated. And I really don't want, you know, to have to worry about the kids while going through that many borders. And I don't know if this makes sense, but there's just something that sits on your shoulders when you have kids outside of your country. It's just this added responsibility. You can't just be reckless, for lack of a better word. Not that we're being reckless. That trip would need an entire, like, it needs a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of besties watching the ads, please, so we can finance the trip. I don't know. Would we do it again? Yes, we would do it again, over and over and over and over and beyond, basically. And then the last question, this one, I saved the best for last. Ooh. So if you watch until this far, big up to you, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. The last question is total cost of the trip, how we budget, how we cut costs, and how long it took us to save for the trip. The organized girly that I am went and tallied up all of our expenses right here. I basically looked at all the transactions that we did that I knew for sure were related to the road trip, and I put them down here, and I was blown away. How we budget for the trip, basically, because this is not just a let's drive down to Durban, let's fly down to Cape Town, let's just go to Sun City kind of trip. Those trips are very small trips compared to a cross-border trip. So it does need a lot of money, I'm not gonna lie. So we use the additional monies that come into our bank accounts, and additional monies would be like if I get a campaign on Instagram, or, you know, our bonuses from work. We use that money and we sort of stack it up, and we use that to travel. So we don't necessarily commit it to anything else because we already have our budget, our monthly budget running, and then the bonuses are the additional that we can blow on trips. So basically that is how we budget. We don't necessarily say if we save like 1,000 a month we can go, although that is a great plan. Like if you really want to start road tripping, or maybe you want to do it local, start from where you are to Mpumalanga, from where you are to Durban, from where you are to Cape Town. There's so many things to see along the way. Is somebody knocking here? There's so many things to see along the way. So just maybe start saving 500 Rand a month out of your salary, or 1,000 Rand a month out of your salary, and sort of pick a month. So start with next year on my birthday, I want a road trip to Cape Town, for example. It's an entire plus 1,000 kilometers. So there's a lot of stops along the way. You can make it into this fabulous 2 weeks adventure. So you start by saying, okay, my birthday is coming up in 12 months. I'm gonna save 1,000 Rand a month, or maybe 1.5, and your partner says I can throw in 1,000, or your friend, or whoever it is you're going with, and you start stacking up that money. So by the time you get there, you basically hit the road. The nice thing with road tripping is you don't have to book anything in advance with regards to like flight tickets, all that fun stuff. You don't have to worry about that because you're going to be driving. And even if you want to rent a car, I wouldn't advise anybody to do that though, because it works out to be so much more expensive, because rentals charge per day. So you'll be bleeding money for the drive, not just on fuel, but for the car. So just rather use the car you have. You not necessarily have to pre-book anything except for accommodation if you want to pre-book. Like, I understand that some people are very anxious when it comes to road tripping. Like, they want to know that where they're going, they actually have a place to sleep, while we're just like, we'll figure it out. As long as we're together, it's cool. Yeah, that's the only pre-booking you would have to do. Driving wise, you don't need that. You will just need the fuel, and you top up as you go. So the money you're stacking up, you can basically a month before your birthday say, I have 26K. My car takes 1,000 per full tank. So I'm budgeting like 10 full tanks on the way there. This will be used for accommodation and food, all that fun stuff. So yeah, you can approach it from that point of view. And then how we cut costs, this might not be everywhere everyone's cup of tea, but we don't do super fancy holidays. We don't look for like 5-star stuff. We're looking for memories, real, raw, genuine memories. And that's why we prefer camping. The point I'm trying to bring across here is you don't have to blow 40K in a hotel room for the weekend, while you could take that 40K and spend 2 weeks on the road trip into Cape Town, and you know, being in like 10 different accommodation spots and seeing all these magical places on the way there. We cut costs that way. We're not really like super fancy. And people were trolling me on TikTok. I trolled them back when they were watching a video I did when I was packing for our Namibia trip, and they're like, don't we have food in Namibia? Of course Namibia has food. Every country's got food. But what is so wrong with preparing ahead of time? Why is it so wrong to want to plan ahead of time so that you are in control of how much money you spend, rather than just showing up in a different country and expecting to buy things from scratch when you get there? Be smart about it, honestly. If you want to do extravagant, but you must also be willing to save up for that. Or you can, you know, cut costs in the sense that instead of renting a V-Class, you can rent a sedan. How long it takes to budget for us, like I said, obviously bonuses are once a year thing, so of course it's a once a year thing. We don't necessarily travel a lot, and when we do travel, we don't necessarily spend a lot of money when we travel. So it might look like we're going to many different places very often, but we're not spending a lot of money because we are not necessarily shopping and getting new outfits for every trip, doing extra things over and above the trip. We basically just pack what we have and we go. How long it takes, it depends on when we want to go. Like if we were to go to Paris, we probably would be looking at some time next year, because there's no way in hell we'd be able to do it now. We need to save up for that trip with what we have before we can even say, you know, should we set up a GoFundMe account kind of thing? With all of this said, let's get to the real juicy stuff, the total cost. So after tallying up all of these costs, I realized that one very expensive line item here, which came at as no surprise to me, was accommodation. We spent a total of $26,329. And out of this $26,000, majority of that bill went to Desert Breeze. It's an Airbnb, the hotel in Windhoek, a Hilton hotel, as well as that hotel in Appington. Desert Breeze cost 6.7 a night. Hilton hotel was 5.4, and then in Appington we paid 3.5. The Delight in Swakopmund was 4.3 for one night, 4,300 Rand for one night. All of these combined already is a huge amount. For camping in Kalahari Farmhouse, we paid 800 Rand. In Windhoek, we paid 1.2. Canyon Farmyard, when we went to Fisher River Canyon, was only 1.2. So really the camping was not expensive. It's the hotel stays that we had to do in between the camping that was expensive. And the only reason why we did the hotel stays in between camping was, for one, to give us a break, because Dizzy was a one-man show with regards to setting up the tent and taking it apart. He did that alone, because my job was to then keep the kids busy and alive, because you know kids will drift away. So I had to keep them together and keep them entertained while he's doing that. It takes a lot of time and energy, and even though he never complained, I knew it took a lot. So we did hotel stays just so he can like relax and recharge and like, you know, soothe his shoulders, all that fun stuff. So that's why we did that. But if it was him and somebody else, like if I was able to help him with the tent, I honestly don't think we would have done hotel stays. It would have just been camping the whole time. But yeah, we needed this, but unfortunately it hiked up the bill. And then the next line item that was very expensive was the fuel, but it wasn't entirely expensive either. We spent 10,529 Rand on fuel, and this was pretty much every time we bumped into a garage, we would just top up. The whole thing of we need to fill in 10 ppm diesel obviously goes out the window, because as soon as you leave Gauteng or Joburg even, 10 ppm is very scarce. So we filled up 50 ppm. My car smokes like it's on something right now, but it's slowly like cleaning itself out. Yeah, 10.5 on fuel. And then I have a miscellaneous spent. And miscellaneous is basically what we bought in the garage, like when we needed water, when the kids needed chips, like slab chips, when we bought the meat from Checkers, anything and everything that we had to buy but didn't necessarily need. Like when we went to Agribees Falls, when we went to Fish River Canyon, we were buying ice creams, just to cool down and be in the moment. We went to, there was a roadhouse where we ate food there. So all of that basically worked out to be 7,823 rand, which I think it wasn't bad. This was over 2 weeks, it wasn't really bad at all. And then for groceries, which is essentially what we packed here from home, we spent 4,000 rand, which wasn't bad. Some of the things we came back with them and we still used them when we got home. So we didn't really grocery shop until like probably 2 weeks after the road trip, once we got back home. And then there was another bill here for 4,675, which was for a cooler bag and a mat. Unfortunately for us, we had to buy another cooler bag because we couldn't get to the cooler bag we had that we used back in 2017. It was in my brother-in-law's garage and it was sort of backed up with everything else, and we did not have the energy to sort of like bring everything out just for one cooler bag. So we ended up deciding let's rather buy a new one that we can keep here at home. And then we needed the mat. The mat is essentially the black giant square thing that was outside our tent. That thing is helpful, especially if you're camping. It sort of helps you not bring sand into the camp, into your house. We didn't have it back in 2016, 2017. This time around, we're buying it, no questions asked. So we went and bought it, as well as the car cover, which is what we used to cover the stuff on top of the car, because we put on roof racks and we had to, we were stacking things up on top instead of getting a trailer. So we had to cover those so that in case it rained, because it's waterproof, the things wouldn't get wet. The total cost for this trip altogether, which is basically accommodation, fuel, miscellaneous spending, groceries, and the cooler bag. I'm literally separating the cooler bag from the groceries because a cooler bag is a one-off purchase. Like, we're not going to have to do this again when we go camping. But the total cost worked out to be, drum roll, it worked out to be 53,402 rands, which was not at all expensive. I know it's a huge bill, it's a huge number, it's all of 5 figures, but when you think about it, 53,000 won't even get you like a week's stay in Sun City for the 5 of us. It really won't. Whereas this 53k had us in Namibia for 2 weeks straight. So it really isn't that expensive when you think about it. Just forget the 5 figures and the big number and look at the realisticness of it all, and then you realize that it's actually not that expensive. A few things that we had to do before the trip, which I'm not including in this 53k because I personally did this because I felt we needed to, was one, we put the roof racks, the roof bars at the top because we didn't want to pull a trailer. That was a price item to that. I changed my windscreen because I had a crack running right in front of the driver, and I knew that if we get stopped outside the country, we might get a ticket, we might be in trouble, so rather fix that now while we still can, and we did. There was a cost to that because my insurance had a little bit of access. And then I changed all of my tires. So I took out the Goodyears that I had and I put BFG tires because I knew this time around we want to go on the gravel road and go into the deep Namib desert, rather than just being on the tar road in the towns and the cities. We wanted to go into the desert and all the fun stuff, and I knew Goodyear was not going to make it, and it was not going to make it. So I put on BFGs, the Trail Terrain, which is good for tar road as well as off-road, and it was incredible. Sylvia was thriving, honey. Thriving the whole time. So that's another cost that we had to incur before the road trip, but I'm not including this in the total cost because all things considered, this would not be a normal expense when you go road tripping. So yeah, that's basically how much money we spent on a 2-week-long road trip across Namibia. It was incredibly fun. I wish I could do that. Like, I wish that was just my life, like just pack up the kids and go. I even asked them, like, if we keep you from school the whole of next year and all your friends go to do grade 6 and you are not in school and you go back the other year, your friends are in grade 7 and you have to be in grade 6, would there be an issue? She's like, no, I'll see them at break time. And I was just like, girl, I wish that was my life. Unfortunately for me right now, I just don't know how I would be able to do it. I don't think I have the guts deep down to do it, even though I know I really want to do it. And also just looking at the money perspective, I don't know if we'd be able to raise enough money to be able to do that full time for a year, but you never know. The Lord provides. So don't be surprised if one day I hop on here and I'm like, this is it, guys. This is it. We are going on a year-long road trip. It would be just so incredible. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you watched till the end. Go ahead and thumbs it up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe and, you know, hit the bell button like I would say, so you get notified each time I upload a video. And of course, go ahead and share this with your friends, family, all the fun stuff, so that they can start planning their road trips. And let's do this, guys. Let's do this. Honestly, I always say, every single person I get to bore with my road trip adventures, I always tell them, you have to try it at least once. Just once. It doesn't even have to be a cross-border road trip. Just a road trip from where you are to Durban, PE, Cape Town, anywhere. Just anywhere in the country. Just do it. It's life-changing. Anywho, I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye, besties.
Tonight we're running on the right track.